Can you see me now?
I see you. You look great. Beautiful map behind you. Nice flag. Room Radar would give you a good mark. All right, so we are delighted to be joined by our Resident Humanitarian Coordinator for Somalia, Abdelmoula, who is here to talk to you about the situation in Somalia. And so, Adam, please, you have the floor, and then we'll take some questions.
Thank you, Stefan. Ladies and gentlemen of the UN Press Corps, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today on the drought situation in Somalia. The situation here is dire, and the country is facing a very real risk of famine. But first, I would like to tell you about Fidel Rawi. She is a 95-year-old grandmother who has been displaced by the drought. She's now at a camp for internally displaced people in Dolo, in southwestern Somalia, on the border with Ethiopia. I was there yesterday with colleagues from UNICEF, WFP, and OCHA. We spoke with her under a tree that gave some respite from the blazing sun. We were surrounded by rugged makeshift tents that people were using as homes. She told us that throughout her long life, she had never experienced a drought as bad as the one Somalia is enduring now. We were taken aback, and we were also shocked by the condition we found many people in. At a nearby clinic, we saw malnourished children with their equally malnourished mothers receiving urgent medical care. In fact, on the day of our stay there, we also saw 400 newly arrived internally displaced people who came to Dolo seeking food, water, and shelter. Resources that are already strained are stretched even further. These are just some of the human faces to the situation in Somalia, the stories behind the numbers. Things were bad even before the drought. All up, almost half of the population of the country, that is 7.7 million people, need humanitarian assistance and protection this year. And of those, 6 million need food assistance urgently. And to complicate matters, the situation is not going to get any better anytime soon. The drought has compounded the humanitarian needs and exacerbated existing vulnerabilities. We are entering into what looks like a fourth consecutive below average rainy season. The famine concerns are very, very real. There is a risk of famine in 6 areas through June this year. Now, the famine concerns so far are between now and June are one, the April to June rainy season is forecasted to fail. Second, food prices continue to rise sharply. There are multiple factors behind that, as you all know. Humanitarian assistance is not scaled up to reach the most vulnerable populations, and that is mostly because of lack of resources. As of April, an estimated 4.9 million people have been affected by this drought, but we anticipate, as I said, those who would need food assistance to be around 6 million. Among those affected are 720,000 newly displaced people. just between January and the beginning of April. Food insecurity has drastically worsened. Malnutrition in children is on the rise, even reaching catastrophic levels in some districts. And disease outbreaks are spiking, especially measles outbreaks. The list of woes and suffering goes on. If this is not a wake-up call, I don't know. The UN family in Somalia and its partners have been hard at work. We have managed to reach 2 million people with aid from February to the beginning of April. We have done this through taking innovative approaches and redirecting resources, but we cannot sustain this without more resources. Somalia needs help, and it needs it now. In December 2021, we launched the Humanitarian Response Plan for Somalia for this year. In it, we asked for $1.5 billion for the humanitarian response. So far, we have received just 4.4% that amount. I repeat, 4.4% of the total ask of the 2022 HRP. Quite simply, that is not nearly enough. Any dollar spent right now will help save more lives now, as well as be more cost efficient down the line when we are in the thickest of a full catastrophe. I realize that there are many other crises on the global agenda: the war in Ukraine, crisis in Yemen, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. Somalia's crisis competes with these for the world's attention, funds, and resources. But Somalia needs these now, and we need to act now. The longer the humanitarian response plan takes to meet its target, the more lives will be at risk. And those that we will attempt to save then will be in a much worse situation than they are now. I hope this gives you a clear indication on just how grave things are over here and just how desperately resources are needed to prevent things getting worse. I urge you to please use your platforms to amplify this message. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Adam, we'll now take some questions. Celia, please.
Celia Tavared for Africa Confidential. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe the mission was established in 2013. Am I wrong? Yes, no?
In when?
2013.
2013.
Yes, 2013. And if so, it has been 9 years. Why did you say that the situation is not getting any better anytime soon? What is not working?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Celia, for that question. What I would like to say is that the primary driver of the humanitarian crisis in Somalia is climate change. And it has been getting worse. The rate of drought has increased threefold over the past 20 years compared to the previous 20 years. So the primary driver of displacement and humanitarian afflictions associated with it is climate change. And it is anticipated that by the close of this century, temperatures would rise up to 3 degrees in this region, in the Horn of Africa and in the vast majority of the Somali territory. And that would render most of this country uninhabitable. It is also one of the fastest urbanizing countries in the world because of climate change. And this has nothing to do with the political side of things. What we have here is an SPM, is a special political mission. So what I'm talking about here is just the humanitarian situation.
Thank you. Ibtisam?
Hi, my name is Ibtisam Azim from Al Arabi Al Jadid newspaper. If you could clarify whether you're feeling the effects of the war in Ukraine on your aid operations and how, and then if you could please give us more information about how many people you are aiding and a little bit more details about which kind of aid you are providing, whether it's only food or assisting of farmers, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, well, those are a few questions in one, but let me take them one at a time. With regard to the effect of the war, and I can point out to two immediate effects on Somalia. Somalia imports 85% of all its wheat intake from Ukraine and Russia, and that has come to a complete halt because of the war. That's one. And second, the war also led to the disruption of many global supply chains, and it is the fragile and vulnerable countries like Somalia that feel the brunt compared to more developed nations. The third is that the global rise in the fuel prices has affected Somalia because of the fragility of its economy. The recent WFP and FAO food price survey indicated that in the last 2 months alone, we have seen an increase of food commodities that has reached 160%. Now, with regard to some of the activities that we are conducting here, as I said, we only reached 2 million people out of a total of 6 million people who need food assistance. But there are certain areas that I can talk about more directly related to our most immediate and urgent problem, which is the drought. Since January, we have constructed 42 new boreholes and rehabilitated 56 old ones. Additionally, we have constructed 721 water sources and assessed their condition, and we are working on rehabilitating them as well. In January, or since January, we reached 1.23 million children with vaccination in 54 districts for routine immunization using outreach services. 2.3 million people were assisted with drought-related materials, and at least 32,000 people were reached in 10 districts with non-food items. We distributed the equivalent of $50 million worth of cash transfers to beneficiaries of humanitarian assistance. And the list goes on and on. I hope that gives an idea about what we are trying to do with the limited resources that we have. Just bear in mind that out of an ask of 1.45 billion, that's almost 1.5 billion, we only received 4.4%. So we are reprogramming, we are trying every way we can to scale up, but we are increasingly facing a situation that is totally untenable.
Thank you. Abdelhamid, we'll go online. Abdelhamid.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Abdelmoula. This is Abdelhamid Sayana from the Arabic Daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I have two questions, Mr. Abdelmoula. First, how is the situation in Somaliland in the north? Is it same? Is it better? Is there some kind of stability there that they can cope with the drought better than the north and south? And my second question, in 1992, former Secretary General Boutros Ghali, speaking about or comparing between the war in Somalia and the war in Bosnia and Croatia, he said there's word attention is different when it comes to rich man war compared to poor man war. Do you subscribe to this as you compare world attention to Ukraine while neglecting some other conflict area like Somalia? Thank you.
Shukran, Abdelhamid. Let me take your first question first. Unfortunately, since we spoke last, Somaliland hasn't been doing very well. Most recently, there was a very devastating fire that all but consumed the main marketplace in Hargeisa. And the estimate the loss to be in the tune of almost $2 billion. And we in the UN country team are teaming up with the authorities there to do a threat assessment and also to contribute to the recovery from that catastrophe. Politically, nothing has changed. In terms of the relations between Somalia and Somaliland, there has been no significant development, except for the fact that the government in Mogadishu organized a solidarity meeting to which it invited all the members of the international community to contribute towards recovery of Somaliland from this recent calamity that befell the territory. As to the late Secretary General's words comparing what happened in the Balkans with what was going on in Somalia at the time, let me just say that I complained loudly that the crisis in Somalia was overshadowed by Tigray, and before that by the crisis in Afghanistan, and before that by the crisis in Yemen. So it is just in the nature of the news cycle that the newest crisis seems to occupy center stage and pushes all crises to the back burner. Now, whether there are some political undertones to all of this is someone else's business. My role here is to what is happening in Somalia and to draw the world's attention that if neglected, Somalia's crisis would have catastrophic consequences. And I said in the past, when that happened, we saw the emergence of terrorism, piracy, mass migration, and mass starvation. And all the four of those afflictions would happen again if we don't pay enough attention.
Thank you.
Adam, thank you very much. I think you're now off the hook. So thank you for taking the time. We wish you well as all our colleagues who are doing great work in Somalia. And please do come back to update us regularly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, everyone.